All right, guys, this is episode 22 of the Sonic Road podcast. I have a great guest today. I've been trying to get this gentleman on for the last several months, and I finally had the chance to talk to him. My guest today is Nick DiSalvo from the rock band Elder. During the conversation, we had a surprise guest, which was Elder's bass player, Jack Donovan. So Jack sat in on the conversation as well, and we talked all things Elder. We talked Nick's other project, Eldovar and Delving, and we talked about Nick's experience working for the band's label Stickman Records. Additionally, we talked about the touring life, what it takes to juggle so many projects, and the band's experience touring with the rock band Tool, the Legends Tool. It was a great conversation, really had a lot of fun, and hopefully we can have him back on soon. But let's just get right into it. Here's my interview with Nick DiSalvo and Jack Donovan from the rock band Elder.
You want to listen to me talk about my projects, bro? Come on. Fuck that.
The billion projects. That's why I wanted to have you on, man, because it's interesting. You have all these creative projects going on, and I've been having a lot of conversations with people in my life. I'm a musician too, so anybody I work with, it's hard to get people on the business side of it. The creative side is usually pretty easy. It's fascinating to see the guys out there killing it like you that really have that balance between the creative process and the business side of it. I find that very interesting. Just wanted to know how your mind works with all that stuff.
I feel like that's the kind of the dream of most musicians before they become like full-time musicians. Like nobody, at least I never expected to become like a full-time performing musician. I always wanted to work in some capacity in the music industry as a label or like at a venue or whatever. So it's nice that everything got to happen at the same time.
Was that an easy adjustment for you?
Yeah, I think so. When I started working for Stickman Records about, I don't really remember when, around a decade ago at this point, when I moved over to Germany, and they were looking for someone and they needed some help, ideally someone who also understood things from the band side, gives an interesting perspective. And I always wanted to learn about label work from a more hands-on side. So yeah, they trained me and took me on. And I feel like if you work with music in some capacity, it's not too far of a jump to understand what goes into running a label. Obviously, you need to have some more business acumen than just like you do as playing in a band, but it's all part and parcel of the same kind of bigger picture.
It seems like you enjoy it. Does it scratch another creative itch for you? Because I'm sure you're getting into not just logistics, but the album artwork for other bands and things like that. Because I'm finding that just doing this podcast, I was doing artwork for my last project, my last music project, and I enjoyed the shit out of it. I think it's great. And then I do it all for this too. And it's definitely scratching a different creative itch, but you get that too working with a label?
Yeah. We don't really get involved with the creative side of what our bands do at Stickman. It's a very hands-off approach. Like everyone, we try to round up the artists that we want to work with and hopefully want to work with us and just let them do their thing. So we're not really involved in, we don't make suggestions about what the music needs to sound like or what the aesthetic needs to be. That's all in the hands of the bands. But it definitely is very exciting from that fan perspective to be able to work with bands that you like. Back when I was a kid, it was really fascinating to me what bands were on specific labels. It was like an identifying badge. For me, it feels almost like collecting Pokemon or something. Oh man, we got the label, we're putting together this killer roster. Like, how cool would it be if we had Slomosa there, we had Temple Fang there, and we got Papier there. Like yeah, I guess it is creative in a way, but it's a different thing entirely. It's more like assembling like your like fantasy lineup or something like that.
You've definitely done that at Stickman. I'm a fan of a lot of bands. I already had Slomosa and Temple Fang on here. We're constantly talking about Elder, and All Them Witches isn't with you guys yet. They should be too.
That would be great. I think they're a little bit too big for a label like Stickman, and I don't think I think they're not interested in the indie route, but
yeah,
I wouldn't say no. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, they're staunchly independent. I talked to Parks last February briefly at a merge table, and he was opening up for King Buffalo, and he's like, not doing the Spotify thing, not doing any of that. I know they have a record coming out, but I was hoping they would go on Stickman. That would be amazing.
I guess I assume they were on like some sort of major label. I really don't know.
Oh, nobody knows. They're keeping it side. I've talked to Christian several months ago, and they're like, I can't talk about it right now, but we'll figure it out. I know you guys are going out on tour with them. How did that tour idea come about?
Just our agent collected it from somewhere. I don't know how this works exactly. I think when a band's looking for support, they just internally send out email blasts, and whoever gets it might respond and pitch their band. And the message came through the pipeline. We know those guys too, not super well yet, but hung out with them a handful of times and seemed like a good fit. And so we were just like, oh, we'd be down. And they accepted that.
Us as fans are very excited about that. Let's kind of dive back, dude. I've been a fan of Elder for a while. You know, even pre-Jack, I think. I was like listening to Dead Root Stirring that far
Oh,
back.
Jack's been in the band for the whole time.
I was gonna say if it would be like the way early demos that
Okay, I thought you came in
just
afterwards.
re-recorded or something.
That's when I got into the band. So I don't know a whole lot about your background for some reason. I keep talking to bands I've been listening to for a long time, and I'm like, I just don't know anything about you. This started happening like 10 years ago. I was like super into the lore of bands and things like that, but I don't know, it kind of lost track after probably around 10, 15 years ago. I just started focusing heavily on the music, and I think that has a lot to do with there's just so much to listen to that there's just not enough time in the day to dig in anymore. So that's another reason why I started back at podcasting, just to talk to people that I admire and listen to. So how did both of you kind of get into music? Give both of your stories. If you guys have the time, we can just sit here and chat for a while.
Yeah.
So we're currently in Marion, Massachusetts, where we both grew up. We went to high school together. And
We even went to elementary school.
we even went to elementary school together.
Yeah, geez.
And then we played in like different kind of weird bands all through high school. Some melodic hardcore, maybe a little fantasy metal.
Right on, yeah.
There. And then I'm a year older, so I went off to college, and that's when Nick started really writing the Elder riffs. And they were a three-piece. And then on the summer where I returned home for my first year of college, Nick was like, "Oh, you want to play backup guitar in Elder?" Which I did for one show. So there are pictures floating around of me playing guitar on stage. And then the original bass player, he went off to college and he quit. So I assumed the role of bassist, and it's been that since what, 2006, 7?
Something like that. Like Jack said, we grew up in this small community. It's like a town of 5,000 people, regional high school. There's not a whole lot going on, but when we grew up, there was a pretty good local music scene, especially the hardcore scene down in southeastern Massachusetts was pretty strong. I feel like that's where our musical socialization happened a lot. We were trying to figure out like playing. We were both interested in playing music, and we're always jumping from one band to the next. And then Elder was the one that stuck.
I know you've said in the past that the first goal of Elder was to push that heaviness as far as you possibly could, and how it became a little stale after a while. And when I read that, it resonates with me too, as a listener and a player as well, because nowadays, for the last 10 years of my listening experience and trying to find new bands, it's not just about heavy anymore. It's me like trying to find the song. It's not heavy just for the sake of heaviness. I love heavy music, but I'm looking for always who has the song and the timbre and the heaviness, if that makes sense. So when I read that, it really resonated with me as a listener.
Yeah, that blew my mind the first time I saw. Trying to think of like the first loud and heavy band I saw, like the Sword in 2006 or something.
Yeah,
because that second wave of stoner rock, or is it the third wave? I don't know. In any case, like that didn't really get popular. At least there weren't like touring bands. You couldn't see like Sleep or High on Fire in where we grew up, especially not at all ages venues. So the first time I saw, I think that show, I was like, oh my God, like this is so cool. Like these full stacks, it's like so loud, it's so heavy.
Oh, yeah. For me, that was, I saw Mogwai in 2007, and that was kind of eye-opening and literally year-opening. It was like probably the loudest show I've ever been to, but they're not really a heavy band, but they have extremely heavy parts in some of their songs. And I remember that show being like, whoa, you can do this sonically? What the hell? It was really cool.
Yeah, I love bands like that. That's why I love Elder. It's because you guys have really switched into that realm where you get into these like real melodic parts and then the real heavy riffs too. The first time I saw the Sword was like, I don't know, man. It was when they were on tour with Metallica. They
Yeah,
were
that's
doing in between stops on their own headlining shows in between Metallica shows, and they came to the Grog Shop in Cleveland, and it was so packed. We could only see the tops of their heads. You saying the first time you saw the Sword, I had the same experience. It was just rad, heavy, full stacks. I'm not even sure they're doing that anymore, but
Yeah. Probably in retrospect, I don't even know if it was that loud and heavy. For me, it was kind of like the first super heavy show I had seen. Well, that was, I think these kind of experiences, they showed me what you can do live, and that was impressive. And so we started, of course, you wouldn't play a show without a full guitar stack. It would just be unthinkable. But that shtick gets kind of old quickly when you're just like, all right, it's just volume.
It's the PA.
Yeah.
It's like in some venues, it's
It is cool to still every once in a while just like go to a show and get crushed by volume. This is a cool experience, but it's not something we wanted to do all the time. And also, if you get a little bit more intricate, like if you're droning, that's fine. But if you're really trying to play like intricate music, it's just things get very muddy very quickly. You kind of sacrifice the articulation of the music for that like, raw heaviness.
it's not volume at 10 anymore. It's more like 7.
Yeah.
Or
Plus,
very
the older you get too, man, it's just, I'm a drummer, so I got to start not playing next to full stacks. You know, like my guys have been playing the combo amps and stuff. It does sound a lot better, at least on stage for sure. But you can really get a lot of those smaller amps, and like you said, a lot more tonality, and you can play around with them a lot more.
It just depends on what you want to do, really.
Yeah, you got a high watt back there. You're still playing high watts?
Yeah,
Well,
they're great. These guys have hooked us up over the years. I think we were like one of their first sponsored bands once they started making, once they got the dudes who are making them now got like the name rights back and started like hand wiring them again. So we're very fortunate to be part of that family.
Oh yeah.
I don't see too many in America. Are they overseas?
They build them in Canada, and then they have a British workshop as well.
Yeah, they're great amps for sure. Just getting back to your guys' earlier work, I mean, we're already touched on this, but it seems like Elder's early work, Dead Root Stirring, it had more of a jam feel to it, but getting into the later albums, they get more expansive and experimental in nature. I know you guys have done like some lineup changes. Did those kind of changes just come with new people in the band, or was it always kind of a plan? Because we're transitioning from the ultra heavy into the other stuff, but I'm assuming that bringing new people in kind of helped push that further.
I don't really think so, to be honest. We did write, like the band's always been a different spot for every record, and we've been physically often in very different spots. Like when we did Dead Root Stirring, I think I wrote most of that album by myself, but we like had a practice space in Boston. We were like meeting up to jam all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe it was in Providence. But there have been times where we haven't been in the same physical location, and a lot of that writing and exchange of ideas happens very much like on a personal level, and then like exchanging through the internet. So I think like some records like Dead Roots were more jammed out together.
Totally.
And some stuff, I don't know, maybe the Lore Reflections like happened a little bit more like people writing or me writing most of that on my own. And then that just in general leads to a different approach to how the music's put together. And oftentimes it gets more complicated the more it's like one person just like composing by themselves, because you're not like burdened by what you can do with everyone in the practice space at the same time. Like now, like when we're writing an album, it's all done meticulously in pre-production, and like all the songs are written and recorded like basically at home or in our practice space before we even go into studio. And then you can, when you're already working with like writing and writing by recording, like the sky's the limit. You can be like, oh, I want like 10 guitar tracks here, I'm going to use another synthesizer than the other thing. And that's how it's been going, and why things keep getting more and more complex.
I know, Nick, you write a lot of it, but does it change by the time you guys all get into the room for pre-pro? Yeah.
I think that might also be a convenience, like cost saving thing as well, to be like
For sure. Yeah.
to be really rehearsed and to know the songs inside and out. And if you can go in there, you can bang out, say you did the rhythm, you can get it done in like 3 days. That leaves way more time to do the more intricate stuff, guitar work, maybe some new synth part. That stuff that can develop in the studio, like interesting textures and tonalities and stuff like that. Especially if we have a little extra time and we can experiment with some stuff.
We like to know exactly what we're doing when we go into the studio, but there's always like intentional spots left open to do something more. Like that on the last record we wrote, probably 95% of that is like mapped out exactly what we're gonna do, and then there's 5% where like we just happened to run into a pianist who was recording in the studio next door and like, brought her in to do some stuff. Or we recorded another song which we didn't end up using because I don't know, we were just kind of like jamming.
Yeah, we were like in there.
Sometimes it's nice to have your core material, but also have a little bit of extra space and time to experiment. And I think that mixture often makes us a little extra on top.
When you find people in the studio when they're working, that seems like the 70s. That happened a lot in the 70s. That can get fun because you think you have it all mapped out and you're just kind of adventuring right on the spot. That's cool too, man.
Yeah, the last studio we recorded our last full length at Innate Passage is this big compound in Hamburg, Germany. And it was like co-financed by, what the hell is that dude's name? Omar Rodriguez Lopez from the Mars Volta. And so he was just there at the studio, just, well, it was like a live-in studio, and we'd be like downstairs in the lodging and you'd hear him just playing music at 1 a.m. or something. Then you walk upstairs and he's just there with some dudes just like smoking weed and like jamming in his studio. And so we're often like, okay, this is crazy. Maybe we can like that dude to do something.
It was definitely the strangest studio experience I've had, as where you slept there, but then you had access to the studio at all times and everything was on. We could go up at like midnight and go jam. So like I really feel like maybe a song that didn't end up making it develop because we had time to actually sit and jam in a nice studio.
That sounds awesome. That sounds like a dream situation to me. Was there an engineer there the whole time?
No, we had an engineer for the sessions, but the engineer went home at the end of the working day and we were just kind of there. And sometimes you'd go up and prep for the next day's work or set up new amps or try something. I think theoretically, if you wanted to engineer yourself, you could work at whatever time of the day.
That's amazing. We need some stuff like that here in America.
Yeah.
There's a couple studios out in Pittsburgh I'm interested in for my next project because I got a guest host. He's an engineer, was a Seattle guy back in the day, Dave Hillis. He did some of the early grunge stuff, so he jumps on here a lot with me, but kind of pushing my projects over to him because there's two like really fancy studios. He has the Studer tape machine from London Bridge in Seattle, so he's got that and a Neve board in one studio. So I was like, man, we got to get in here and mess around sometime soon. So I'm trying to get some projects together so we can get out there and do it. But then there's another guy who built this big church studio. It's like these fantasy studios that you have when you're a musician. I want to track drums in this room, but I'm trying to get out and get access to some of that stuff. And it's not as expensive as it used to be either. And a lot of these guys, it's just passion projects. They're just sinking a bunch of cash into them. So it's not like a big money thing, but it sounds like sort of like that. But man, that's awesome. It informs Innate Passage because that's my favorite record you guys have done. I've pushed that album to everybody that hasn't heard about it. Even though it's a few years old now, I was like, dude, listen to this. This is so far their best one. Was anything fundamentally different from the band? You pretty much use the same process as writing? Because it just seems like that was a big turning point for you. Atmospherically, as a whole piece of music, it's a masterpiece to me.
Thanks. Yeah, well, we did have a very fundamental lineup change when our original drummer, who was with the band for many years, we parted ways with him and picked up our current drummer, who's got a very different style. And I think we were trying to figure out how we wanted to pivot the band at that point and how we wanted to make use of his skill set because he's a very different kind of musician. And that was around the time that we did Omens, which was also the record we released pretty much into the pandemic. And it was just a crazy time where I felt like everything wasn't really going, like we hadn't quite figured out how we were playing together in the new lineup. The record it was a stillbirth because of the circumstances. And I think that gave us some time to think about how we were going to plan the next step and what we're going to do with what became Innate Passage. And really Yeah, that was also a record that wasn't burdened by time. We like wrote a lot of it in the pandemic, which I think a lot of musicians totally weirdly benefited from, just like having this kind of no pressure to, you're not on tour, you don't need to worry
Right.
about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was a very patiently crafted record where we just really figured out, okay, we need to make these songs something special and fully recognize this vision of it's our brand of progressive rock.
Absolutely. During that time too, it was a wild time because you were working on Delving, you had Eldovar, which I want to talk about in a second. It seemed like getting more and more expansive, and then the gold and silver sessions. I'm trying to get the timeline right because all these are just coming out in the same kind of time period. A lot of people were struggling during the pandemic, but it didn't seem like you guys at all were like struggling to be creative, man. You just kept releasing material and all these different projects. I had a question about the Delving. It seemed like you were tinkering a lot more with the synth stuff. That definitely, it seemed like it informs Elder's later stuff after Delving. How does that work, learning synth and that kind of gear? It seems like it's a lot of just playing around, or is there more of a methodology to learning that kind of instrument?
I can't play keys at all.
It is a lot of playing around and then learning it, like whilst playing.
Is there lessons? I guess that's what I'm kind of getting to. Is it just curiosity and experimentation?
Yeah, pretty much. That's the whole reason I got interested in using keyboards in the band, period, just because I think I reached the point where I was like, okay, I don't know like how much more I can do with just guitar. We started introducing keys into Elder with some Rhodes piano and Mellotron sounds. In Lore, I think that was the first record that had those elements, and it's become more and more over the years as we become a little bit more confident in our ability to experiment with different.
And Devar, we had Matt's old Gen synth.
Oh, true. Yeah.
This is like way early when we were like, wow, an oscillator. Like, this sounds cool in the background.
And make like a wind sound.
Yeah, yeah. I've done that a little bit with my last project. I give it to the engineers, like, put some bells and whistles in there. Just make it cool.
Yeah. But man, like also gear has come so far. Like a lot of stuff became more affordable over the years where you don't have to like hunt down some crazy vintage synth and restore it. Like you can buy awesome gear. You can use plugins for like very cheap or even free sometimes. So just a lot of experimentation over the years. And then especially during the pandemic, that's when I got really into like, synthesizers, and I started like buying some and assembling more of like a home studio. And yeah, just playing, even if you're not, I think actually not being a good player in a weird way is an advantage, because oftentimes you're just playing around like a kid and you like stumble on something that you find is cool. But weirdly, I think I compose at least half of the music I write for every band now on keyboard, just because it's become that kind of like more expressive instrument some weird way.
And
Yeah.
easier on a piano roll to experiment with chords and stuff like that. Or if you play a round note, you can fix it and then relearn it like after putting it into the computer and stuff like that. Technology's cool. It helps.
It's fun, man. I'm dabbling in guitar. I suck, but I'm thinking about taking lessons. I'm just tuning weird tunings and finding fun notes to fuck around with. And I'm using a modulated amp and just making noise with it.
It's good to know what you want to do, but it's also nice to not know how you're going to get there sometimes.
Yeah. I think people like Eddie Van Halen were kind of like that. Although he was trained in a certain way, he was always experimenting. Jimmy Page, all those people, and then all the prog bands in the 70s coming up with those cool sounds.
Yeah, actually, I was reading a lot about the backstory of every Yes album recently, and because I listened to one album that I'd never listened to before. I forget which one it was, Relayer or like something from this late 70s era. Oh no, Tales from Topographic Oceans. And I was like, the fuck, how could you possibly write this music? It's like, absolutely insane. And like, a lot of it was like just like two dudes in a studio, or they were like forcing themselves, like everyone's gonna write like a part and we're gonna like put it all together. They were madmen though.
Yeah, they were super talented.
And then doing it on tape too. The engineers probably wanted to hang themselves by the end of it.
Oh yeah, they had spools and spools of tape that splicing it together was almost impossible. Brought the studio and the engineers to their absolute limits.
I'd like to see some of those old master tapes and be like, oh God. That's another art form right there that's kind of lost. I talk to Dave all the time because he used tape, Dave Hillis, and they used to cut it with razor blades and splice it together, man. Could only imagine like these studio projects like The Who. I talked to Ron Nevison not too long ago and was trying to wrestle some of those stories out. Who's like another one of those bands that was just really tinkering around the studio with synthesizers, like in the early 70s when it was probably just a massive endeavor. Pretty wild. That Yes is another band I need to kind of check out. I've been trying to carve out time to listen to bands. I was like, man, I should really dive into that Yes stuff. They had cool album covers.
Yeah. I mean, their discography is kind of daunting if you don't know what you're looking for, but they have a couple records that are pretty accessible and pretty riffy towards the beginning of their catalog.
Yeah, like early 70s.
Yeah, like Close to the Edge and Fragile. Yeah, like just the early stuff in general is before they got too out there. It was like one of the first bands that Jack turned me on to in Prog. I didn't listen to prog rock like growing up. He was like he was the prog dude.
Yeah, my dad and my uncle love it. My dad would put on a Yes album and I'd be like, whoa, this is interesting. And I don't know, prog is just more fun than just straight 4/4 blues riffing.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, they could often use a good riff.
Right.
That kind of music resonates with me. I've found over the years that some of the records that I've loved for decades now, damn it, getting old, dude, but it challenges you. It's not easily accessible. You have to listen to it over and over again. Those kind of bands are the ones I get obsessed with now. You guys being one of them, every release over the last probably 10 years, it's not easily digestible at first. You got to listen to it over and over again, and you pick those parts out. That's what's great about you guys, especially Innate Passage too. That's my favorite. But the reason why it's my favorite is because I'm always picking up these different elements in the music. So it makes sense that you guys have influences like that. What other kind of proggy weird stuff are you guys listening to? I'm asking people what they're listening to as fans too, because I'm always trying to find new music to listen to.
I think our current music taste is like pretty far away from what you'd expect.
To answer this, I'll say one of my favorite bands, especially when I was younger, is Rush.
Oh, of course.
And like their catalog, a lot easier to digest than Yes, for sure. But still
For sure.
proggy band. But I'm finding, especially as Camel.
I've heard of Camel.
Yeah, Mirage. If you just listen to Mirage, it's front to back, killer album.
I will, man.
As I get older and Rush has such a huge catalog, like I'm finding that now, not listening to Fly By Night and all that stuff, I'm like, oh, Presto, that album is fucking badass. When I was a kid, I thought it was lame. I was like, oh, these songs are so cheesy and lame. And now I'm like, wait a second, I know what you guys are doing. Like, this is all kind of new thinking to your crazy prog music and makes it a whole different genre almost from the early stuff. And so like now I'm like, oh, like different decades of bands are fun to listen to.
Yeah, you can relate to that a lot more once you've been playing music for a while too. Same with the King Crimson stuff. For a long time, it's just like they had the formula with the first record, and then now it's like, oh, like this is crazy and awesome, just in a totally different way that I didn't get earlier.
Yeah.
If it doesn't always end up being your taste, you gotta
it might get bored.
Love the experimentation.
And I think maybe bored isn't the right word, but wanting to play something new is definitely apparent. Even with us, it's like moving away from like Dead Bird Stirring. It's like, well, this stuff is way more fun to play, or more interesting, at least playing it. Maybe not to listen to, but like playing it live and stuff. I love all playing the new stuff is more fun to me.
It's kind of a blessing that the bands that we love in these genres don't have hits, because you guys you're not chained to a song. You don't have to play that one song.
Every show we get one guy, Riddle of Steel, between songs, like screaming, come on.
Yeah. But even with the 10-minute songs where you wouldn't expect that there's like the hit, as you say, like you figure out what are like the fan favorites pretty quickly, and you know what ones don't go over. We had a tour some years ago where we brought a keyboard player with us and wanted to do a bunch of stuff that we hadn't done either before or in a long time, because we didn't ever tour with a keyboard player before. And within a couple shows, we learned nobody wanted to hear that shit. They wanted the riffy stuff we played a million times, so we had to redo the set list like on tour to adjust to that. No one wants to play in front of a bunch of yawning people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, I figure your fan base, most of them probably want to hear the new stuff. I saw King Buffalo, wow, several months ago now, but they barely played any of their new album. Come on, play the whole thing.
Oh, well, yeah, like the fans are pretty split. I think more the same way as concert goers too. We've probably all got like the idea of what you want to hear and what you don't want to hear.
Is that hard to write set list when you have so many long songs?
I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's a process.
Well, for festivals where you're given like a set amount of time, yes. For if you're playing your own show, we just say, okay, we're gonna play an hour and a half, and then it's easy. But sometimes if you're given a strange time, it's 55 minutes. Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to shoehorn something in.
Just gave us 2 minutes on like the tail end of it, and we've been like,
Dude,
there's
that's-
actually been close.
When we opened for Tool at the beginning of the tour, they gave us 30 minutes, which you're opening for Tool, like you're happy for what you get.
Yes,
But we were
exactly.
really like, okay, we want to try and play 3 songs if we can, and a good a variety of stuff that we think we might catch some fans with. And that putting that together was really difficult. We did have to rewrite some stuff, and but that's obviously an outlier situation.
was that the kind of the same set every night on that tour?
Yeah, it was like one
Yeah.
of two.
We maybe we switched one song in and out, but we wanted to keep it.
Pretty tight.
It's a whole production with Tool.
And just knowing that you fit in that time was like
Yeah.
stressful enough because you've got 100 people looking at you.
When I heard that you guys got that, I was like, the stars have aligned. Fucking finally. So the bigger bands are coming around to the killer smaller bands that are working hard. How did that opportunity come about?
We've known Danny, the drummer, for some years now. We met him via his wife and sister, who are also music fans, like the whole band is, but we happened to meet them because they
Have best.
they put on a music festival in
Oh, that's right, yeah.
in Portland, Oregon, Stumpfest.
and they had booked us before, and he would just like go to the shows and hang around and like, watch bands. Like he's just like a music fan, and he watched us enough. I don't know. We got to talking. We became friends somehow. It's not like a corporate thing that's like picking the bands. It's really just the band members, and I think they just rotate off whose turn it is to
Yeah.
pick someone. And he just asked us.
Well, it got floated, I think, pre-pandemic, but it never worked out the timing with our other tours that we had booked and all that stuff. So then they were like, "Don't worry, we'll come back around," and then they were true to their words. And we got to go out with them.
That's badass.
They often pick like smaller bands or like really strange stuff too, just because they want to. Excuse me. They want to. I don't know. To throw a bone to someone, or it just.
I think it's like, even mess with their fans.
Of course.
Sometimes.
Yeah. They're known for that. They know we're not going anywhere. You know, it's good for them. Shit, I haven't seen them in a while, but yeah, we'll see. Time's a ticking. They say they're going to make a new album, but that's great that you guys got that, man. I was super happy for you. I bet that was fantastic news. More of these bigger bands need to do that same thing, I think. Just get a little weird, man. If I was in a huge band like that, I wouldn't really care about the industry anymore. I'd be like, we can do whatever we want. Let's take out these smaller bands. That's a totally good move for them, for sure. No doubt.
Yeah, I don't honestly. I never go to like big shows, so I don't even know what other bands are doing. I saw Iron Maiden like this summer, and they had an opening act which wasn't exactly my thing. I'll be as kind as I can, but yeah, it definitely did seem like all very much within the same wheelhouse. It's got to be a metal band. It's got to sound like Iron Maiden.
All I can think of now is Battle of the Bands, open up for Metallica if you win, or like something like that. Like,
Yeah.
Well, it does bring cool bands on tour with
Yeah,
them.
for
Like,
sure.
I think they're one of those bands that does like kind of reach out to smaller bands, but like the Sword and shit.
Did
Like,
Mastodon open up for Metallica?
I think so.
Yeah.
And they had this
Metallica.
like Bocasa. Like I think they do choose bands they just like as well, because they're
Right.
like they're going to sell out everything anyhow. They don't need to put together a package that's going to sell more tickets.
Yeah, they've definitely been known for that. They took the Sword out for like a year and a half. I talked to Kyle Shutt. I've talked to him actually 4 times now. And he was like, Metallica tired of them out, I guess. They're like, we've been out with you guys for a year and a half. We got to stop. I was like, dude, I would just keep going as long as Metallica keeps asking you.
Yeah. I
They
mean,
made
Hard
it
to
for a
imagine
while.
saying no, but
I don't go to a lot of big shows either. I'm spoiled, dude. I've seen a lot of really good shows like front row. So, plus the industry is getting so weird now with the ticket price thing and all that. It's getting out of control with those bigger shows, and the numbers don't make any sense. My brother lives in Indiana. We tried to go out to see Pearl Jam just to have fun. It's not like we're huge fans of those guys anymore, but it's like, yeah, well, let's just get tickets and go and hang out. And they were legit $1,000 a ticket.
yeah.
I was
Whoa.
like,
what?
that's insane.
Because you
Like-
can scalp. I was talking about this with someone recently because you buy them now and you can instantly scalp them. Bots buy all these tickets and then resell them.
It's crazy.
But they even say that like sometimes the shows they're not even fully attended, or
Right.
because they're just tickets floating and that they weren't able to resell. Now all of
Right.
a sudden you have like less people in the seats because
Yeah.
we're trying to make a buck.
I think Tool does a really good job with their Metallica works with it. They do like multiple night sets, and it's probably $350, but you get to see them 2 nights, 2 different sets. They're working hard to make sure there's bang for your buck with that stuff. That's why I like about this smaller scene. Like I went and saw King Buffalo and All Them Witches last summer, and the tickets were $35, and it was at a small venue in Kentucky. The Burl down there. I don't know if you guys have played down there yet, but man, what a cool venue. It's old school. It's not
Beer.
corporate. Beer's cheap. Tickets $35. I was like, wow, we're like in early 2000s mode. So-
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of discussions while we were on that Tool tour about like our experiences in these big corporate arena environment. And I can't speak for anyone else, but I definitely walked away from that feeling like very grateful to have been along for the ride, but I was very happy to kind of return to our little ecosystem because
Right.
that feels a lot more, it's got a little bit more soul and yeah, just a little bit more sane. But also,
Yeah.
the ticket prices, the arenas, like the corporate partnering, it's just completely different from what we're used to as well.
The whole machine, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's well oiled. They do it successfully.
Right.
It is hectic. 15 trucks in every day, in and out,
Damn.
building up the stage. Everything's freaking on time. It is nicer to get back to just like a venue where you're schlepping your own gear in.
Yeah. Maybe have one guy help.
That's not
you,
what I
but-
enjoy. But
Yeah, it can probably be a little distracting. There's probably a lot of rules, and you guys got to be on and off at this time and all that kind of that stuff.
yeah, but also just nice to like, see your audience and also I don't enjoy going to these bigger shows for all the reasons that you just listed. It's expensive. It's like pain in the ass getting in and out. And this whole experience isn't the same as being in a small room with like a couple hundred people.
Smaller rooms sound better.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. You
Like-
see something, you don't need your fucking binoculars.
Yes.
And what I think how they can mitigate all this too is just to strip down all these massive shows, not so much Tool because they kind of need that atmosphere, but a lot of these bigger bands like just strip it down, man. Just don't charge as much and strip down the production a little bit and just make it sound good, just like an old school rock and roll show. A lot of bands could get away with that, it'd be fine. I don't all the fancy lights and pyro and shit. That's cool, but I don't need it as a fan. I don't think most would either, just as long as the band sounds good. Take that underground feel and put it on a big stage. Like all the grunge bands did that back in the 90s, and they did a pretty good job with it. When they were filling arenas, it was still the gap between the stage and the audience was narrow, and there's just the basic lights behind them, and they just came out and destroyed and left, and tickets were $35. It'd be cool to get back to that.
Yeah. I'm sure so much of it is just supply and demand. If you know that you can
Yeah.
go and play for 20,000 people in a certain city, of course you're going to do that. But
Yeah.
it is an interesting question. Like, what does a band seek to do in terms of production value? What do they need in terms of a venue to do that? And well, Tool is a band where they've got the full LED screen and it's like super impressive. And that's really cool to see in a big environment.
Yeah.
And then there are bands where you think, okay, just four dudes running around on a gigantic stage. I can't even see them. It would be nice if this was in a much smaller setting.
Yeah, do 7 nights at a smaller venue or do something like that, or like a residency every
True.
week. That'd be cool as hell. We can dream, I guess.
Oh, we don't have these problems.
No.
Yeah. That's kind of cool, man. I think rock and roll these days, the people doing it for the right reasons, it's kind of firmly in the underground, and the ecosystem is cool. I think that's where it probably should be. That's what you guys are doing over in Europe with Stickman and that culture that you have over there. I would love to see more of that in the United States, but I think it would have to be more like a tri-state local area to get that kind of thing going. It's just dreaming, but I really appreciate it. I'm going to try and maybe get out to Europe sometime and check out some of these festivals and dig in, like the Palp Festival. I saw you guys played there a few years ago.
Oh, well, Hell Festival is something that's a special one. That one's crazy.
Dude, yeah. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that
Europe is spoiled for festivals. That's very true.
yeah, it's a whole summer. So it's like a touring, it's like the summer touring season is pretty much festivals in Europe, right? You guys do that quite a bit.
Yeah, no one, well, I shouldn't say no one. A lot of people don't go to like club shows in Europe in the summer. The American mind cannot comprehend how many vacation days are over there.
I know, man.
A lot of people just aren't around, or a lot of venues, like in Germany, venues don't typically have air conditioning. So it's not a place anyone wants to be. So a lot of people aren't around, and then there are so many festivals that people just tend to gravitate to that instead.
Get it all in one fell swoop.
Yeah, yeah. You can take a European vacation and just go on follow your bands.
We're putting
Festival.
together our tour schedule for next summer right now, and it's impressive how many festivals are in the same time period. It's kind of crazy.
It's wild. But I mean, you're saying going over there and checking this out. There's definitely some festivals that you can make a nice vacation around too.
Yeah, Freak
Sonic
Valley
Blast
looks
in
cool.
Portugal, like that festival is badass, and you're right on the beach. And I don't know, people don't often go to Portugal as opposed to the other hot spots in Europe for vacation. So you can definitely find some cool stuff.
Might have to make that happen in the future for sure. Because the festivals out here are insane. They're the big corporate thing. It's just, dude, I don't want to, like we just talked about, going to the jazz festival in New Orleans. It's 3 days. It's exhausting. It'd be cool to see more smaller festivals in the US too. I think that's maybe starting to happen. It's definitely starting to happen in Ohio. They have these things there's one called Porch Rocker, where it's in one city, it's in Akron, and it's these 4 city blocks, and everybody has bands on their porch. Hundreds of people show up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be something cool. And then they have a headliner like out on the street on a bigger stage, basically a flatbed truck. It'd be something you guys could do if it was worth it. It's pretty.
I don't think we've ever been offered one of the big American festivals before.
No, there really aren't that many as far as I can,
There's
or at
like-
least there's not for this kind of music. Like actually back in the day, there was this emissions from the monolith thing that happened in Youngstown.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, and there were some smaller things over the years. Back in the 2000s, there was a kind of like a good scene going in Maryland, and there would often be like Stoner Hand of Doom Festival or Maryland Doom Festival. That's not the Death Fest, but that's like another independent thing. So every once in a while people try, but it's
and there was Psycho.
You can't really offer like camping, and it's a different thing.
Spread out.
Yeah, very small. But yeah, people try.
Kind of forgot about Psycho. Like they,
Of course. What am I talking?
Couple, they had 5 solid ones, and then it moved to Vegas, and it got crazy. It was like even talking to the people, way too expensive.
You guys don't get more offers like that. Dang it, pissed me off, man. Come on, man. We need to bring all these bands more over to the States. I know you guys tour the States a lot. Slomosa's been touring the States. I was talking to Dennis from Temple Fang, and some of them, I just talked to Peter from Lowrider too, and they're just like, man, it's just tough to get over here.
It's almost impossible. We have a European in the band. Our drummer is German, and we have to get him a work visa. And it's like for one person, it's insanely expensive. And we're lucky that we do have our home base here. We can rehearse here. So flying one guy over, okay, it's not the end of the world. Or flying one guy over, paying for one guy to come legal, but like for European bands, it's insane. Yeah.
Sort of like a Dozer.
Yeah.
Or they just
Dozer,
yeah.
some of them can make it happen, but it just sounds like it's too tough. It's a bummer because there's a lot of fans of all those bands here.
The States is a good market for sure.
Yeah.
People want to see these bands from Europe.
Maybe someday, maybe they'll fix it.
Yes.
It's kind of out of our hands. Feels like it is anyway.
Like the government makes so much money off of people and these extortionary working visas. As an American band, you can just fly over to Europe and tell the passport officer like, you're gonna go on tour there, and they're like, "Have fun,
Come on in.
Yeah,
What band are you in?
Can I get tickets to your show?
that's like you withhold your local taxes on your fee, and then that's that. It doesn't have to be so crazy, but hey, that's
Yeah,
America.
it should be a free flow of people most of the time.
Would be nice.
Maybe someday in the future. It's kind of a drag. Damn it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe I'll just try to go out to Europe every couple years and support that way. Doing the best I can out here, that's for sure. I wanted to ask you, Nick, about Eldovar because that was another record I picked up, and I think that was during the pandemic, wasn't it? When I first heard it, it was like there's a handful of these kind of super group kind of things going on over there. I think Peter from Lowrider just did one with Elephant Tree too. That record gave me some like serious Pink Floyd vibes. How did that whole thing come about? I'm sure those kind of things are kind of hard to put together, aren't they?
Yeah, well, we didn't have any idea that we were going to do that when we first met up with those guys. Like, we all live in Berlin. I mean, us and Kadavar, not Jack, but this was during the pandemic. So I think we were kind of putting out feelers for where we wanted to record the next record, which was going to become Innate Passage at that point. And those guys have their own studio that they built and invited us over to check it out. I think we were curious, maybe it would be a place that we would record. And we came over and they were just kind of like, oh, we're all stuck here together. Maybe just if you want, come over and we can jam. We've done that. They'd done that before with another band, and they just throw some mics on everything and see what happens. So we did that. It was really just that kind of pandemic creative time where like you had nothing better to do. So yeah, we went over for a couple of days and jammed with them, and that's what turned into that record. We just hung out, played some music, and then listened back and determined that there was some material there that we could like cobble together into like a somewhat cohesive record. And it did turn into like kind of a studio effort where we were like splicing together the songs and like going back and rewriting some stuff. But it was an interesting project.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a slow build. Oh, this is a real thing after a minute. Yeah, dude, it's a super cohesive record. I like it. It's a little weird. It's strange, but I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely like a lot of different ideas talking. So it is a strange record, but it's cool. Definitely not what anyone expected to come out of a collaboration between two bands that mostly pedal in heavy music.
Was the creative space pretty shared? Would somebody come in with a like fully kind of close to form song? Because some of the stuff, it definitely sounds like more Kadavar, and in others, it's obviously you.
Yeah, those guys are really good at just, I think the way they work is they meet up in their studio and they just write a song on the spot. Like they're not as precious with their ideas as we are. Where for me, everything's got to be absolutely perfect and completely constructed. Those guys will just go in and be like, okay, let's make a song that sounds like this. And so when we were jamming, it was very much like they just had this big open room and everyone would just find an instrument and do their thing for a while. And then you just float around. Oh, hey, can I get on the drum kit now? And maybe you go play like the synthesizer or something. So that was like half of it. And then the other half was those guys definitely had some concrete ideas.
Yeah, what were you doing during the pandemic? Just kind of hanging out?
Working. Yeah. I had a bunch of extra cash, so I bought a bunch of cool gear. But what else was there to do other than play music? But unfortunately, all my musician friends have moved away from my hometown.
All the music that I made in the pandemic was by myself too. It's not like you were out like doing much.
Oh, no.
Is there plans for any more? I guess.
No, we still see those guys and their friends and everything, but I think we all feel like that was a moment in time thing, and
Yeah.
we're happy that that happened, but we don't like feel the need to try and recreate it either.
I have a feeling that record will grow over time. Maybe in 10 years, there'll be a fan base. This is happening a lot now. I talked to Peter from Lowrider about the band Acid Bath, and that's what happened to them. It's two albums in the 90s and then they broke up and they were never a big band. But over time, these two records just exploded in popularity.
I think they became like the ways of the internet are so weird. Like we don't really even grasp this. I think, and not that I don't feel that old, but you know, like we're getting to almost 40 and I don't really understand what's going on in a lot of the internet. Like I went to see this death metal band Mortician a week ago, and they haven't released a record since 2004, I think.
Yeah.
And they have 300,000 Spotify listeners, monthly listeners, like a pretty big number. And like, I went to this gig and there were a lot of young people there. And I was like, what the hell is going on with this crowd? And then I come to find out afterwards that they had been the subject of some meme page online, you know, like just someone probably posting like goofy photos of this kind of goofy looking band was enough to reinvigorate interest in them to the point where they have a fan. So it's a totally fucking different weird world out there. Like the ways of the internet are inscrutable. But I think something like that happened with Acid Bath.
The Acid Bath shows are crazy. They're like sold out with big openers, and I don't know, people are all stoked.
Huge.
Yeah.
Good for them. They have an album. Well, no, that's not Acid Bath, but I have like little background with Dax. They used to come out here all the time, and my band opened for them, and our friends used to open for them. But if you guys are not hip to Agents of Oblivion, check that record out. That's the one they did right after Acid Bath broke up, and it's more rock and roll, but it's still that really dark vibe. I'm sure that one's gonna blow up too. Can't wait for that reunion tour. But yeah, it's weird, man. Being an older guy, I'm like 48, so watching these 90s bands, underground 90s bands, become this huge thing that they haven't been active in 25 years. It's just insane. And then Trouble too. Didn't that happen to Trouble? Was it Trouble or God? It was one of those bands. Pentagram. Bobby.
Oh
Pentagram.
yeah.
It's that one meme.
Man,
Bobby Liebling became a fucking meme. Younger kids discovered him because they finally saw a photo, like someone posted a funny video of Bobby Liebling performing. It's like, yeah, the dude's been looking like that for like the past 20 years since they started performing again.
Yeah.
To us, it's old news, but now they're like popular again because they just happen to be spotted by like the internet. It's really funny.
But anyway, man, I think that's probably what's going to happen to the Eldovar record. You guys will probably be committed.
We'll find a funny photo of us, like finally become popular.
Like it's gone platinum after 20 years. Shit. That definitely doesn't even happen anymore in rock and roll.
I was gonna say, like CD sales, no. It's a bummer. Now you get like a YouTube plaque.
Yeah. I guess that's where it's at now. Do bands even keep track of their record sales anymore? Do you guys know how many records you guys have sold, like collectively, or is that just kind of out in the ether somewhere?
There's a way to do it if you have a barcode for all of your records, like they're registered to something in Europe called like PhonoNet. But in the States, our pressings don't even have a barcode, so there's no real way for you could like, track down pressing quantities and kind of guess, but there's
or even like at shows, like selling merch, those numbers can get a little murky if it's busy and you're doling them out.
And I guess it just doesn't even matter anymore.
I think plenty of bands do keep track of stuff. Like I guarantee if you ask King Buffalo, they would know exactly how many records they've sold because they're like a very organized band.
Yes.
And we're not like that at all. Yeah, probably a lot of what they sell, we just don't really keep track of that stuff.
It's a little easier now with the being able to have a Square reader. Oh, credit sales are already digital and you can look at those numbers, but for cash.
But in general, in the overall picture, they also like press their own records and shit. So
yeah, they're pretty impressive, man. The House That Rock Bell. I've talked to them twice before on my other podcast, but they're busy. I think maybe next year will probably be a better time to talk to them. But yeah, dude, they built this big barn studio out in New York and dream job shit. I know they work with Stickman too, but out here, it's all them doing it. What's going on with Elder for the new year? I know you guys said you probably had some new music coming out.
Yeah, can't exactly go into that too much in detail right now, but we will definitely, suffice to say, have new music quite soon. We do have studio time booked in the very near future to do another full length. The schedule is a bit tricky right now with a bunch of tours coming up, but we will have a new record recorded by the end of the year.
Oh, beautiful. So 2026 is looking pretty good for music, man. Killer albums are going to be coming out, so we'll be looking for that. I know you guys are touring with All Them Witches in, is it this month or next month?
October, yeah.
Any plans of coming back to the States in 2026?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Awesome. Coming
Yeah,
to Cleveland?
2026, well, it'll be a big year for us.
Yeah,
We'll
we'll be pounding the
we'll
pavement.
be quite busy.
Awesome. Well, if you guys get out to Ohio, I will be there for sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks for talking to me, man. I appreciate the work ethic, the output. Let's talk more as more new music comes. Maybe next year we can chat again or do it live. If you guys come through Cleveland, I'm trying to get out. I used to do these podcasts at venues, so it would be great to meet you guys in person and sit down and talk some more. Maybe when you guys stroll through Cleveland or Columbus, travel.
Yeah, we'll pass through one of those cities on usually every tour booked in Ohio. So
Yeah.
Cool.
until then.
Great. Yeah, a lot of Elder fans out here. I'm trying to sell Elder records, man. I'm trying to help you guys out here.
We appreciate that.
All right, brothers. I
the
appreciate the
pilot's
time,
good.
man. It's been great talking to you.
All right, sweet.
Yeah, thanks for letting me hop on.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Pleasure,
man.